Love lives here.
So April, here at Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, we've been working with the theme of, and we continue to work with the theme of timeless wisdom, evolutionary vision. Don't forget, I'm also the chair, and so I've been thinking about 2022 themes already, so I almost let that slip. So let me refocus. Let me focus on our focus statement. 1 second. Okay, so here at Centers for Spiritual Living, my gosh, I need coffee. Here at Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide, in 2021, we are working with the theme of timeless wisdom, evolutionary vision. And the theme for the month of April is stepping into the unknown. Remember, this year is we are on this journey, this upward spiraling journey of, it's an evolutionary journey that's rooted in the timeless wisdom. So we talked about the overall concept for the year in January and February. We moved into some of the timeless wisdom pieces, the wisdom of the ages pieces, and then we really talked and spent the month of March talking about visioning and talking about the evolutionary vision and evolutionary visioning. And so these 3 months have really led us up and been preparation for what is the new beginning, what is a new path, what is a path that we are traveling this year. And so now here in April, we are finally really fully stepping onto the path, and we're stepping into the unknown. As I mentioned in my article, or in the email that you received this week, that we've been stepping into the unknown for, well, forever, but we've really been stepping into the unknown on a regular basis this past year. And so this month we are talking about the intentionality, intentionally stepping into the unknown with the faith that we've built through the timeless wisdom, with the faith that we've built through our evolutionary visioning and evolutionary vision, and trusting and knowing that Spirit's got this, that God goes before us and makes the crooked places straight. God goes before us and prepares the way. So today we have the opportunity to really explore the path less traveled. And I don't know about you, but in science of mind or religious science or Centers for Spiritual Living, we have this tendency to really want to take that path less traveled. And so that is what we are talking about today. That is the discussion that we're having today. So I would like to invite our beloved Reverend Dr. Victoria Bomberry to join me here. So good morning, Dr. Bomberry. Good morning, Dr. Victoria. Great to see you with us this morning. Great to have you here with us. And I want to direct everybody to notice that in the Science of Mind magazine, Guide for Spiritual Living, Science of Mind magazine for April, Reverend Victoria has a feature article on page 20. So I was in the magazine last week or last month. Reverend Victoria is in the magazine this month. So Riverside is represented well in the Science of Mind magazine this year. So thank you for being with us this morning. It is great to have you with us. You are our Minister of Transformation. So good morning to you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So Reverend Victoria, we are talking about the path less traveled this morning, and you wrote the guide for today's message. And so the focus of the guide that you wrote was really looking at the Easter story and the Good Friday story through a metaphysical lens. And one of the things that you really pulled forward, which I thought was so beautiful, is that you pulled forward this revolutionary or this radical evolutionary idea and the path less traveled of the idea of forgiveness. So would you like to, I'd love for you to share your perspective on forgiveness as a evolutionary or radical path of liberation.
Oh, sure.
Maybe give us a little background.
Oh, well, I'm going to keep this short, okay? Because, one of the things that I love about, I love the Bible. I really do, because I think that it is a powerful statement to the evolution of consciousness. And, it's from a tribal people, from an outsider standpoint. So it's kind of an odd thing that this outsider standpoint has gained such prominence in the world, right? And here we have this person in the persona of Jesus, who is an oppressed person, right? Within this great Roman Empire, the Jews are oppressed, and within his own structure, the Jewish structure, he is an outsider as well, because he has chosen to take a different path. And of course, we know that this is a radical departure, and it is radically evolutionary to the consciousness of the people of the time. And I think it's still today, today is, I think it's just as radical of a story when we think about forgiveness. And for me, the entire story as it's presented has these different steps within it that shows this evolution happening sort of in time-lapse photography, right? We go through this entire transformation in this very short story as it's presented in the Bible that takes place over 3 days. And, I did focus a lot on Good Friday as that those things that were put in place for transformation to happen today on this 3rd day. So forgiveness is such a, it's a part of who we are, right? It really is a part of who we are, but we haven't had lots of ways to kind of think it through. We get caught up into the, years ago, what we had was if we look at the Bible, it was an eye for an eye, right? A tooth for a tooth, and if someone wronged you, then, you took blood revenge. And, even, with all people, blood revenge was the way of being. So what do we do when we're talking about some sort of forgiveness? A lot of tribal people, including Native people here in the Americas, had justice that moved away from that eye for an eye idea, and it incorporated forgiveness on multiple levels and a way of making amends to the wronged parties. So this idea of forgiveness is something that we know about. We know that it's necessary in our life in order to move forward. What makes it so amazing for spring is that, for my people, spring was a time when it was a time of forgiveness before you could go on. It's almost like before you can take a next step into a new life, or to participate in the new life of spring, you have to forgive. You have to let go of all those old resentments, anything that's happening, that's holding you back. That's the time to let go so that you can fully participate in life. And of course, the Jesus story is about fully participating in life on the grandest scale possible, on this cosmic scale. And on the micro scale, participating in this beautiful spring requires forgiveness and letting go. And it's almost instinctual, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because what do we do in spring? We start cleaning, right?
Right.
It's instinctual. We just do it. But that's built into us to know forgiveness. And it's a type of forgiveness. We're letting go, we're releasing. And here we are, ready to step into this new way of being.
Absolutely. And as you said, as you mentioned, it's instinctual, and it's not just limited to certain cultures. Really, it's at least in the northern hemisphere. There's in Japan, we have Setsubun, which starts off it's in February, but it's exactly that idea of it's welcoming in the new year by cleansing the old. So there's a great big, house cleansing and preparing for the newness, preparing for the freshness. And so with that, in Japanese culture, we throw beans symbolic, casting out the demons, if you will, from homes and welcoming in good fortune. So as we're throwing beans, when I was living in Japan, as we were throwing beans out, it's oni wa soto, fuku wa uchi. And so it's like devils out or demons out and fortune in. So it's a welcoming of the good fortune, but it's a casting out. It is a releasing ceremony, and the same goes for the Persian New Year, which is also on around this time. It's also on the spring equinox, the vernal equinox. So we have that of again, it's a cleansing, it is a renewing, it is a releasing, and it is a building of relationships. Same thing with the Wicca traditions and the pagan traditions that around Ostara, which is also on the 21st it falls on the vernal equinox, right? And then we have it's a cleansing, and it's a newness, it's a refresh, it's a rebirth that's happening. So it's not just limited to any one tradition, but it's, very widely practiced, at least in the northern hemisphere. I'm sure the southern hemisphere has their own practices around it as well, but it's widely practiced here in the northern hemisphere. I love what you shared, that with your peoples, the peoples of the Muskogee Nation, that this springtime is really about the forgiveness and the restorative justice piece, so that we are starting off the new season in right relation. So it's not just a cleansing of our physical space, but it's also a cleansing of our minds. It's a cleansing also of our relationships, and coming back into that restorative justice, and that forgiveness piece. From what I'm hearing you say, the forgiveness piece is also about the community. It's not just for our own personal clearing, but it's really a way of supporting the community and having a healthier community. Would you like to say more about that?
Sure. I think that this past year has given us a lot of pause, right? Mm-hmm. With all the things that we've seen occur. And if there's ever a time that we need to practice forgiveness to move out of this pandemic, out of the violence that surrounded all of the political happenings, this is it, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, we're doing it not just with ourselves, but we're doing it with the community. And sometimes I think that we get really focused on ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And we forget that anything that we're doing is affecting the whole. And that's why we're doing it. And also, we want to restore balance mm-hmm. to the collectivity. If there's been a wound, an individual wound, that wounds the whole. Mm-hmm. And if we are forgiving and doing this restoration that's absolutely necessary, then we are healing the whole. So that's something that I think is, when sometimes I get a little irritated when people say things, oh, well, that's tribal, right? And
Mm.
kind of denigrating tribal activities and tribal ways of being. There's something about the family and the tribe that is teaching us about how to live together. And this is for us as human beings, that tribe is a necessary element. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have a tribe in terms of blood and kinship, but we do have ways that we connect with people. We call them now chosen families, but they're sort of the tribes that we're associating with. And how do we practice? We get to practice love. We get to practice forgiveness. We get to go through all of that with those people that we are living in a collective with. And now, because we have this global consciousness that's rising, right? We know ourselves as related to everyone and everything on the planet and beyond. That those practicings that we've done, if we've gone through this evolutionary process, I used to want to just jump through, but we have to go through an evolutionary process, right, to get to the point where we're ready to take the next step or the next leap forward. Mm-hmm. So the individual and the collectivity are one and the same. And we look at it from the macro level. We're not separate from God, and right. The same is true within the micro. We're not separate from our neighbor. We're not separate from anyone. So we need to be really paying attention to those right relations all of the time. And it's all about right relations and kinship. How do we treat one another?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the second point too, right? Of that, there's the forgiveness piece, and the forgiveness leads to freedom. But then the forgiveness and what you're sharing right now is about the oneness, right? That, it is about relationships, and really, like, every relationship that we have is a direct reflection of our relationship with the divine, because everyone and everything is the divine. And so, this path of the path less traveled that we're walking here is a path of forgiveness, but it's also a path of oneness. It's a path of recognizing that you and I are connected. We're inextricably connected. And so what I do, how I behave, what I believe is inextricably connected and has impact on you, and vice versa, that there is no separation, that there is this interconnected web of life, that any node on the web or any node on the net affects all of the rest of it. So it's recognizing that oneness is also part of that path of the less traveled, I would say, because not everybody currently, if everybody got that forgiveness is a huge piece and a huge part of it, and oneness is a huge part of it. If everybody got that, I think the world would look very different than what it does now. The world of effect would look very different than what it does now. And we here at Centers for Spiritual Living, through our teaching, through the way that we show up, through our spiritual practices, and this is one of the ways. It's a path that's less traveled, and it's one of the ways that we are working together to co-create a world that works for everyone in all of creation.
Exactly. That's what we're all about, right? We're about this transformation, and we're about waking up to all of the teachings of the ages, right? All of the truth of the ages. And, no one has a monopoly on the truth, right? But there are stories that we really like, right? Mm-hmm. As human beings, a story will resonate with us. A spiritual story will resonate with us. We've seen a rise in Buddhism in the United States, and it's because so many of those stories resonate with us. The story of the Buddha resonates with us at this point. And I think it's a natural form of our evolution of consciousness right now, that we are awakening these different aspects of who we are as humanity. And, it is, it's pretty exciting to me, to think that, each group of people has, is a revealer of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Each collective of people is a revealer of truth. Every individual can be a revealer of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when we bring those truths together and we can see them more clearly, we can see what is more clearly, then we can live in that place of perfection that this world was created to be, that the universe is created to be, and it is already. It's only our consciousness that is impeding our ability to see it and experience it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Which then brings us to the radical love piece too, right? That there is this love for the divine and this love of the divine, this agape love that we are ever experiencing if we just allow ourselves to experience it, that this love is never withheld. It is the ever givingness of the divine to and through and as itself. It is ever giving. Nothing is ever withheld in this love. And so there's this recognition then of this love with one another, of this love of each other, this loving our neighbor as ourselves, and loving God with all our minds, all our hearts, all our spirits, that it is this great love that is also really radical in this way of approaching life and in this pathway that is perhaps, still less traveled. That this is when you look at forgiveness and you look at oneness and you look at this love all combined, which is, the essential teachings of Jesus the Christ. It is the backbone, or it is the very essence of the Christ consciousness, of recognizing our oneness and this love. When we see that, then things also begin to shift.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, I think the reason that we resonate with the Jesus story, again, there's a lot of resonances, is that emphasis on love. Mm-hmm. And, how it was articulated so clearly. And, and I'll say it over and over again, there's no one has a monopoly on love.
Right.
But, there are stories that just bring it forward in such a powerful way. And especially for, I think the story of Jesus, that was, Jesus didn't say all that much, right? If you look in the red letter Bible, Jesus didn't say all that much, it probably is on a couple of pages. Mm-hmm. But what he did embody and what he did present in such a incredible way was love and the necessity of loving, right? And you're talking about agape love, right? And that kind of pure God love that he was able to bring forward in his life. Mm-hmm. That's something that is so sweet to us, right? I mean, it rings true. Mm-hmm. We know that on a cellular level, that is the truth. And how we feel when we love, that's the transformation, right? I mean, anyone who's ever been in love knows there's a huge transformation that takes place when you have your beloved, right? Right. And it is always, it's something that that awakens us to the possibility of something even greater than that bond between, loving a human being or, another being, and the love of God, that pure agape love. So we're always in the process of purification, right?
Yes.
Purification and understanding. And when I say purification, I'm not saying anybody is I guess I should say it in terms of polishing. We're polishing things up. We're polishing. We're cleaning that window so we can see things more clearly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The Christ consciousness, the Christ, the anointed, the Christ consciousness is really about the embodiment of love, right? And so when it shows up in each one of us, that each one of us, the Christ consciousness is the indwelling presence with each one of us. We are the embodiment of the Christ consciousness, that we embody that love, and then that love is then expressed in even greater ways on this physical plane, which is kind of what we were talking about. When we embody something, when we embrace something, we embody it, we become it, then we are it, which, as we were talking about last month, that's really what we are here to be, is the presence of love, the embodiment of love itself, and to express love in greater and greater ways here. And so Jesus, the man, Jesus, the teacher, was the great example of that. As you said, it's, very little said and a lot of acts, right? And so he's the great example, teaching by example. He's the great example rather than the great exception. And that was part of his message, is that these things, you can do, and greater as well, right? It's not just limited to him, that he's the great example of what's possible when we fully embody the Christ consciousness, when we fully embody the love. This is what is possible. This is, all these things then become possible in our lives. And that is a very untraveled path.
It is an untraveled path, especially when we think of what we do as human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a tendency to put people and things on pedestals, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we put Jesus on a pedestal as well, right? Or we put Ernest Holmes on a pedestal.
Right.
And, and of course we respect them as teachers and we love them, but they are not the exception. They are only the way showers. Mm-hmm. And and I think that, that very powerful saying of Jesus, this and greater you will do, is evidence of that, right? Mm-hmm. And in those words, he didn't say, don't put me on a pedestal, but in those words, that I think that that's the meaning. Everyone has this ability and everyone can achieve this. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't depend on some sort of physical ability or transformation in our physical bodies, right? It happens in consciousness. Mm-hmm. And we, basically human beings haven't changed that much, right? In thousands of years. We haven't. We're the same. But what we're changing is gaining that knowledge and wisdom, and I'm hoping that we are on this path of realizing that that in these incredible words of Jesus, that yes, we can look at each other and know that each and every person has this potentiality. And how do we support bringing that forward in everyone, for everyone? And that's what our teachings tell us, right? That this is what we're doing. We're creating this place where people can live their potential. And it happens in different ways. Here in Centers for Spiritual Living, we create this container or this laboratory for us to feel safe and loved and able to experiment with this, to really see and how it works. How does it work? How does love work, really?
Absolutely. Thank you, Reverend Victoria. It is always a joy to speak with you. So let us come together in consciousness now, shall we? Thank you so much for bringing these ideas forward and bringing this to us this day. And so we come together in consciousness, recognizing that there is just this one life, that it is love. It is all that there is, bringing forth through itself, of itself, as itself, all of creation, all of life. And we live anew in it. This day, this holy day, and every day, we recognize that this day is a holy day and that every day is a holy, holy day. Every day is sanctified. Every day is a new beginning. Every moment is a new beginning. Every moment is an opportunity for a new breath, a new life, a new start. But we recognize that this, and we celebrate this new beginning in this time of this year as the bulbs are sprouting, as the leaves are opening, as new life is being born, as new life is being brought forth on planet Earth. We also recognize that there is a new life, a new way of living, a new way of being that is already happening within us. It is ever present within us, and it is simply calling and urging to be brought forth here and now through every one of us. And so I recognize that we are the divine vessel, the divine transparency, the divine vehicle through which love makes itself known right here and right now. And I recognize that this path is perhaps the path less traveled, but this path, God goes before us and makes the crooked places straight. God prepares the way, and we simply allow, we simply follow, we simply open to the divine spirit, the open to the divine intelligence that is making itself known, opening to the divine love that guides every step along the way. And it is our faith that leads the way. It is our faith that is a lamp unto our feet. And so we are divinely guided. We are divinely guarded on this path that we travel together. And how grateful I am to know and to experience this love of this community, this wonderful teaching that we have that shares love, that teaches forgiveness, that teaches oneness, that teaches love, and not only teaches it, but offers us the opportunity for the divine practice of it, the holy practice of forgiveness, the holy practice of oneness, the holy practice of love itself. Our teaching is one of practical application. It's not just one of theory, it is one of actual practical application. And so we look to the master teacher then as the great example, the great teacher of how to apply spiritual principles, how to apply forgiveness, how to apply oneness, how to apply love in practical ways that transform our lives. And so it is with this that we say that we embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. It is this love that we know. It is this love that is transformative. And it is this love that we reveal, that we show, that we express, and that we draw people to us. We draw people to their great awakening, allowing them, emboldening them, supporting them, encouraging them to live their highest potential. Their highest potential is love made manifest itself unobstructed. And so I give thanks for this here and now, recognizing that it is already done, that it is already the truth. And so we give thanks for this new awakening. We give thanks for this new beginning that is right here in this moment, right now, and in every moment. The only moment that is the now moment. And so I release this word, assured of its fulfillment, because it already is. And so it is.
And so it is.
Love lives